Hello, this is John Speelman with a video version of my latest column, which is apparently number 219. I just opened it and realised that I haven't named it, and so after a few seconds conflab with myself, I've made it Pushing the Limits of Greed and Analysis. So when I've canvassed during previous columns for ideas of columns to write, people often say good, great attacking players. And Leonid Stein is certainly one of them. Mid-20th century Soviet player, very, very good attacking player. I've given his dates down here, haven't I? Which I don't remember. I didn't remember exactly. 1934 to 73. I know he died tragically young. I think at an airport or something, of a heart attack, poor man. But he was very fine player. And I've got one of his games. The game I've got is against Viktor Korchnoi, in which Korchnoi nabbed a pawn. Korchnoi was notorious for his liking for taking material and then defending himself. And this time, although it nearly went well, it didn't quite. In the end, it went rather badly, and Korchnoi got rolled over in a very violent way. So, and then I thought, there's this game from the Sinquefield Cup, which most people have probably seen, Gukesh against Vachier-Lagrave against MVL, where there was a position where Gukesh had to decide whether to make an automatic capture or not. Of course, with the time limit as it is, he made the capture, and then the machines went ping and said, ooh, that throws away the win, which of course it does. I'm sure they're quite right. And I mean, their analysis shows why they are. I was watching, I didn't say in here actually, I was watching Peter Svidler and Yasser Saruman at the time, and they were trying to work out why it mattered. And they just had to go down the variation and suddenly say, oh, that makes a difference. And it's rather splendid. So I've got that, and I've got a couple of other analytical puzzles in which people have to decide, whether something works, and then on the first move. So I hope you'll enjoy them all, and let's go to the chess base now. So this is the game, Stein against Korchnoi, Moscow Zonal 1964. Can you imagine having a zonal tournament in Moscow? I mean, with the bods who were available just to get to the candidates tournament, or the interzonal, whatever it was then. I mean, I won a zonal in Bath or something. It was quite strong. It had the best British players and Irish players and things. But you imagine that Korchnoi and Stein are in a zonal. What a palaver. Anyway, so it starts as a Najdorf, then becomes a Scheveningen after this move order, which Garry Kasparov used many times against Anatoly Karpov during their long series of World Championship games. I assume that you can just play Bishop b3 and you avoid what happened. So Queen g3 is sort of a challenge, and Viktor takes it. He goes Queen b6. A Queen f2 would be, well, you could play e5 even to force the queens off. So he plays Bishop e3, and he's managed to nick a pawn, which made him happy, I think. I said Korchnoi really liked his pawns, is the quote I had. He goes back, e5, takes, can go knight e8. I didn't consider knight d7 actually, I don't know why he didn't. Oh, knight d7, is there a knight d5 and knight f5? I guess, is that true? Knight d7, knight d5, ed5, knight f5. That will cause a definite incident, won't it? Or will it? Can you just play g6 there? Does nothing actually happen? Maybe I'm talking rubbish, actually. So, if you can't do that, I don't know why. Let me ask its Sublime Majesty, because I had this feeling that I was attacking the bishop. Of course, I'm still not. Oh, it is. Yeah, knight f5, g6. Then what do you do? Something clever. A3. Oh, A3 rather than C3. Just didn't see it. I thought that ought to be the reason. I did not see A3. Just looking. Sorry about that. And that is going to win material. You can go bishop H4 and avoid losing the house, the garden, and everything else. But your dark squares are pustules at that stage. You do not want to be involved with it. Okay. Exclam. I'll go knight of d7, knight d5. So he didn't do that. So he played bishop d3. The engine suggests knight b3. It's not. Well, I looked at that again, but now there's queen a3, and this is ridiculous. You can play rook a b1, queen a5 doesn't do very much, or you can do knight b3, which threatens a3. And there's either queen a3, bishop d3, and you've improved your position because the queen's worse than a3, I think. She's a bit more out of play, and she's not even threatened to take the knight, even if you play g6. Or you can play bishop d8, a3, queen e7. You don't go bishop c5 because of bishop b6. That'd just be bad. Don't have to do that. I think I'd go knight e4 myself. I don't think I'd want the exchange here very much. And okay, it's sort of happy here, I think, actually, the engine, but I'm always a bit nervous here that they're going to get control and I'm going to end up in big trouble. I wonder if you can play knight. If you play knight f to g5, you can maybe go bishop b6 check and knight takes e5. And unless you win on the spot, you're doing very well. So, yeah, I don't know. Anyway, it's possible. He went bishop d3 at once. 5, getting the queen out of the way. Knight e4. A lot of boys. So I asked various people in lessons, can you play knight c5? The answer is, of course, absolutely not. Can you see why? If you can't see why, have a look. If you go knight c5, 2 question marks. The Greek gift is absolutely devastating. There's no point going king g6, it doesn't help. And that is the end of the game, completely. So that would have been not a good idea. So he went g6 at some point. Bishop d4, knight g7, knight checks, take. It's not quite working, is it? Knight to there, queen h4. Very bad dark squares, but not easy to get to. He went queen d8. He should have gone e5 here. Sorry. Yeah, he should have gone e5, queen g5. Then I first just missed e takes d4, queen a5. I'm telling you all the things I missed. And I was in a hurry because my queen was going to h6 anyway, but it doesn't work, of course. But of course you can't take, because the queen takes queen. So queen a4. There is this line. Good move. Of course, if rook takes, there is queen a1, presumably. No, it's h6, that's right. And this is just winning for black. The whole thing collapses in a horrible heap. So this is not a good thing at all. So I'm wondering if he can go queen g4 here. Queen takes check, rook f1, queen takes knight, bishop g6. But maybe even knight takes f6 then. I guess that's going to win your many pieces up. Okay, he went queen d8. And here there's a forcing line. It's a line you should look at, I think. I think Stein would have looked at it, but maybe just didn't get it right. It's g4. G4. Knight takes pawn. And now not queen h6, which I thought it might be, but just knight g5. So you're threatening to take twice in f6, so you have to play h5 here or e5. If you go e5, rook takes f6. Knight takes f6, presumably h5 is pretty awful there. Bishop e5, and this does work. I mean, it would be surprising if it didn't really. For instance, here, queen c6 check, bishop e4. This is a line given by the machine. And okay, black has avoided losing all his pieces, but it's pretty bad. With white still attacking so many pieces on the board, it must be very, very bad indeed. So g4, knight to there, knight to there. And can you see what's the answer to h5? There is a pretty and very, what's the archetypical win? Pawn takes pawn, knight takes pawn, and now the excellent move up to you. Ping, ping, ping. Very well-known pattern. So, he went rook a1 actually. Still a very dangerous attack. Just about keeping himself alive, I think. Took that way. I would have taken with the rook, I think. Take pawn takes, because if knight takes queen h6 is obviously the end of the game. Clearly the end of the game. So pawn takes, queen takes, knight takes. You're threatening rook takes pawn, so you might as well. And I had this thing, is this still interesting because of bishop f5? And again, I mean, there's just a completely obvious move. It's just this move. You keep the bishop protected, you hit h8, and that's the end of that. So I'm telling you about all of my analytical misadventures when I'm tired. Because I'm obviously, when I'm tired, it doesn't go as well as when I'm not. Okay, so this happened. He took with the bishop. And this is still most unpleasant. Queen d4, check, king h1, queen g4. If queen h5, you play rook g6 check, and bishop checks, have to do that. There's a rook e8 mate, takes, rook to there. Simplest thing to do is just to win the ending, g4. And you're going to win the pawn ending easily, because you'll just swap down as soon as takes king g2, king g7, take everybody off, go and take the g-pawn, poggle your king over gently towards the queen side, while black has to deal with the h-pawn. So that's completely useless. So in fact he went bishop f5. Yeah, I think if bishop b6, bishop takes pawn. h3, certain amount going on still. Queen to there. Rook takes that. I don't think he could have gone queen b4. Have you gone queen b4? It says rook e5 is just winning. Queen b4, rook e5. Bishop takes f3. I guess do you now play rook h5 now, I'm guessing. Can you go rook h5 now, or does something go wrong? G takes queen h5 check. Oh no, that isn't so good. Just c takes d3. You're threatening rook h5 now. Queen checks. I'm just following the engine. Here. Takes. I can go rook h5 now and I win the queen. And I end up with a very level position. But rook g5, of course, is better. And I'm probably threatening h4, h5, and things. So rook ac8 makes sense. And now rook g4. That's clearly threatening to come into the relevant square, isn't it? Rook c3 is the only defensive move to prepare queen g3 check. And now rook g takes g6 check, because somehow we're going to win one of these rooks, are we? How's this work? Rook takes... Oh, of course, sorry. Queen takes. Because pawn takes, rook is mate. Takes here. How do we do this? Queen h5 check. King to there, because you can't go into this diagonal, because queen e5 check. What does it want to do? Queen b6. This is not that clear. I mean, it wants to go here eventually and to do this position. Okay, it's winning for white, but you don't win the rook. So it wouldn't have been that clear. He played queen d4 though. Rook takes, pawn takes, and the excellent move, rook e3. Threatening to go to g3, f4 allows mate in 1, so he has to run. Queen g7 happens first, queen h4. Threat of rook g3, so you give check and run, and then off we go. We're off to the races. I don't know if rook e8 was the best one, but probably. I don't know if we could have just done this a bit more cleanly, I don't know. Rook e8, I suppose he wanted to attack the rook, rather than to allow some sort of bishop f5 thing, but anyway, I assume there's no better move. Nothing better, no. Okay. And a lot of checks, and unsurprisingly White has a mating attack. It would be a bit unjust if he didn't. If he goes to b6, you go check here, and then this unkind move, and then this one, and then that. So king d6, check here. I assume there are other mates. If he goes to king e4, then you've got actually you've got rook f4. No, you haven't got rook f4 and queen d4. You've got queen d3, rook f5, queen d5, rook f7, and rook f7 is actually mate. So this line. So you went to king g5, and we got to here. And Korchnoi was there. I didn't even bother to say why. I mean, obviously it's mate. It's mate. I suppose I should say why. Oh, well, I don't know why that's suddenly doing that. Queen takes check. King to here. So king to here. New variation. Queen h5. Queen checks. King to here. Rook checks. King to there. Queen to there. Mate. Very nice game by Stein. I mean, Korchnoi made took a pawn and made rude gestures, and this time he lost. So the famous position in Gukesh against MVL is this position, and the question is, I'm going to put it here, whether you should take on g4, or rather we're told that taking on g4 is a mistake, and we wonder why. And I said in my weekly column, the English newspaper, The Observer, well, obviously I don't expect you to analyse this. I think it would take a grandmaster 10 or 15 minutes or something to sort it out. But can you imagine why you might want the h-pawns on the board, and what the last move might be if you left them there? And I'm going to show you the after capturing. There are various other moves. There are other moves which I've actually put into the line where the h-pawns are on the board. You threaten mate. You go here. Knight e2 doesn't work because you go rook takes knight and bishop f2 check simply. So you go there. Check here, check. Have to go this way. Takes, check here. I mean, it's possible to analyse this. You always go to a square of you go to the same colour at this point. You don't go to h5, of course, because of queen e8 check. And generally, you go to a square of the opposite colour from the queen when you're trying to escape checks. And not always, of course. So now you have to do something. Queen c4. Then king takes bishop, pawn equals queen. You're going to get mated, aren't you? Probably. Haven't proved that, but I think it's very, very likely. So he goes here. Check. Now the thing is, if the two pawns were still on the board, then White could play king takes bishop, pawn equals queen, h4. There'd be pawns on h3 and h5, and it would be checkmate, which is an incredibly deep variation, which you wouldn't really expect to see, I don't think, in a game, unless you had a lot of time in your clock and you decided to have a serious think about whether to take on g4. I'm assuming Gukesh didn't realise this during the game, or he would have been crestfallen, because if he'd realised it, it would have been so upsetting. Just if the two h-pawns are there, then the game ends. Because now he has to defend himself slightly. Check. Should the king go to h3 or to f3? Well, if it goes to f3, then there's the unfortunate move king h4, and black ends up a rook ahead. So you have to go to here. Obviously, this wouldn't even be possible with the h-pawns on the board. Now king f4 loses to knight e2 check, or certainly doesn't win. I think it loses probably. And bishop f4 allows queen g8 check. So you can't do those. So now what black's to exchange up, but it's not too terrible. He went there. He can play knight d5 and b4 as well. He got his knight round to d3. His king's getting to e3. You can't get round the king side because the knight controls f2 and f4 and f2. And if you bring the king a long way up, you still can't get round, even if you get to f1 or somewhere. And after a few moves, he agreed to draw. He could have tried doing something with bringing his king towards the queen side. But one thing White could do is just to bring the knight from d3 to f3, round about when the king gets to about b4. Then he'll have to go all the way back again, because the knight in f3 controls d4 and d2. So it was a draw. So your man gave stalemate. I've read in the newspaper I said, and they agreed to draw, which is of course entirely untrue, because there was nothing to agree. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. That's one of them. I hope that's all scrubbed up nicely. We haven't lost anything. And I gave two more positions for analysis. The first of these is this, and the question is, your black has just played rook b5. Can you exchange rooks and b5? Or rather, why did he play rook b5? Why did he believe he could? And there's a forced line which I'll show you. If you're a decent player, then please have a look at this, and you might well be able to work it out. It's not beyond the wit of man, I would say, to work this one out, if you're persistent. One thing, you should notice there's no white h-pawn, because it's quite easy to forget that, actually, I think. I mean, if you glance at this board, you assume there's a pawn on h2 or h4, but there's not, especially if you're blind like me. So if he takes, I'm going to put this into takes, check here, here. Actually, knight e7 works. King d2 doesn't help at all. By the way, e6, c3 you play. Take, d5. And there's only one square the knight can go to. If you haven't worked it out before, then just look for the right square for the horse. There's only one of them. There are 8 he can go to, and 7 lose and 1 wins. The answer is that, because you need to get the horse to d6. And that's the end of that. Rather a nice position, I think. One more position I'm going to show you is this one. This is a rook ending, and yeah. Are you going to play g3 or h3? You can play rook d8 check first, it doesn't matter. Clearly, if you start going rook b1, you should lose. Well, I think it's pretty clear, really. You'd be so passive, you'd be in terrible, terrible trouble. So you have to make luft for your king, and then get your rook active and go check and rook a8 and try to swap the queen side off. And the obvious move to me is g3. The reason it's obvious is because it allows you to put the king on g2 where it still protects f2. This is what happens. Have to go there, king f5. Have to go there, rook to there, pawn to there, king to there. Now you haven't got time for king g2 because of king f4, a7, king c3. So if king g2, and it's just over, you just queen the pawn. So you have to allow king f3, which is why g3 is a mistake. And this is quite close. You have to try h4, takes, nothing better to do there. Check here, e5. And this it should be winning. That's quite close, actually. And I asked an engine, of course. Rook b7 is my main line. Takes here, rook to there, rook to there, takes e4. Now you have to go over so you can play rook back and rook to f6. And this if rook e5, you play rook to a6 to stop him playing f6. And after rook e6, then you can go rook to a5 and rook to f5. And again, you have this construction where the rook shelters the king and stops the pawn. So it goes here, some move. Rook to there or to f5. And white's in Zugzwang. There's no big threat, but if you move the rook away from the e-file, pawn equals queen happens. If you move the king, then king f2 happens, so it's just over. So, quite a splendid position. You should play h3 instead in the starting position. Absolutely unobvious. Should go h3. You can give check first, actually, if you want to. Doesn't help putting the king on e7 very much. Now king f5, you just go rook over, rook a4, a6, king e4, a7, king e4. We can't do it. And the game continues. And obviously black is better, but it should be a draw. So rather an interesting position. So I hope you've enjoyed these. And I'm going to stop now. I've put all these into the column itself as positions to solve. And I hope you enjoy them as much as I did, or enjoyed them. I'm back on October the 6th. I'm going to go and check I'm recording, and as usual, if I will scream if I'm not, but then you won't hear me. Amazing I am. Bye.